G'day everyone. You know, a lot of dive watchers get their inspirations and nicknames from a variety of sea life. Tuna, mako, and irukandji to name a few. And I guess it was inevitable that the iconic yet deadly pufferfish would eventually be recognized too. So let's inflate this further and get on reviewing the Citizen Promaster NY0136-52L, which I'll now refer to as the Fugu. So here's the specs list of all the details, including case measurements, features, and price. As a disclaimer, I did receive this watch for free, and I'm under no obligation to return it, so I'll need to mention that in advance. And if you enjoy my content and haven't had a chance till now, a like and subscribe is always appreciated. Now, this particular Fugu model, while having a one-of-a-kind look, kind of makes me think that this is the kind of watch Seiko might make if it launched another Prospects design with a hint of presage for inspiration. Because on first glance, you'll see this as a dive watch that looks more function than form, but after around 2 seconds, you'll notice the textured background of that dark blue dial. Which also explains the Fugu moniker of its Promaster model, as the dial illustrates the sand patterns used by pufferfish during their mating rituals. This gives the Fugu its own unique personality. A dive watch that looks and acts like a functional tool, but with a bit of artistic flair and interest. So top marks the Citizen for originality and creativity. The rest of the dial is fairly utilitarian. On the outer edge, you have a raised chapter ring with minute markers and a slightly bolder mark at each 5-minute interval, and just underneath you have these thick, applied rectangular indices at every hour, save for a smaller one at 3 o'clock to make way for the day-date window, and the 12 index, which has more of a trapezoid appearance. Just below the 12 mark, you have the applied trademark Citizen in bold white text, and above the 6 index, also applied, is 3 rows of content. From top to bottom is the Promaster logo, automatic, and divers 200 meters. And before I forget, I should also mention the Fugu is ISO compliant, so it will most likely live up to its water resistance rating, which of course will be more than sufficient for most people's everyday wear and tear. The hands are an interesting mix. Both are short and stout, but the hour hand has more of a sword shape, while the minute hand is more of an arrow. The length of both are fine. I would say the minute hand could be a fraction longer, but I'd be splitting hairs. And their thickness makes them stand out on the dial to provide maximum legibility. The second's hand has a small arrowhead on the end with a slightly contrasting lighter blue, along with a slightly thicker, almost teardrop-shaped counterweight on the end. Protecting the dial is a flat sapphire crystal, which is a pleasing addition for the Fugu, not to mention a little surprising given the Citizen branding and its budget price tag. As a bonus, they've also applied some anti-reflective treatment. While you will still get some glare in direct sunlight, the metal framing around the hands and indices shines and glitters bright, so time telling is still a possible feat in those conditions. The case of the Fugu still keeps to the tool watch theme with a brush finish along the case sides, tops of the lugs, and around the bezel. There is a bit of polish for the chamfered edges around the crown guard, although you'll only notice this if you take the watch off to inspect it. Overall, I'm really happy with the finish, as it's smooth to the touch and doesn't have any visible imperfections or rough edges, even on the lug ends. Flipping the watch over, you have a screw-down case back, and front and center is a deeply laser-etched image of a pufferfish, aka Fugu, with a smaller Promaster logo similarly etched above it. It looks neat, it's appropriate given the watch's namesake, and should still be staring back at you for a long time to come. The etching around the case edge detailing its specifications, however, is on the lighter side, and it'll likely fade well before our puffy friend here. The lume on the Fugu is acceptable, but I mean good acceptable. For a budget dive watch, it certainly won't disappoint, but once you put it up against proper contenders such as Seiko's, you will notice the difference. For some reason, my video didn't capture the real strength of the Citizen, so after 20 minutes I gave up and started taking photos at certain intervals. After almost an hour, you can see that the Citizen is still holding its own, but at the end, the Seiko still triumphs. So the Fugu lume is good, but not quite Seiko good. And that leads me to my mixed feelings about the Fugu. The first one has to do with its dimensions. At a little under 44mm in diameter and a lug-to-lug approaching 50mm, a small watch this isn't. On a happy note, the lugs do have a bit of curvature which helps to reduce its presence a tad, and a case height of just under 13mm makes the Fugu more stable and prevents rolling on the wrist. And on my 7.5-inch wrist, it wears comfortably where it has a strong but not overbearing presence. But again, this watch may not appeal to those with smaller wrists. The bezel is a 120-click unidirectional affair, And keeping to the Fugu theme, it has deep grooves at intervals around the edge, which gives off the appearance of spines, the defense mechanism of the pufferfish. And again, points to Citizen for creativity here. And these spines offer excellent grip for your fingertips when rotating the bezel. Although in between these groove sections, there'd be smooth segments which have less grip than an icy road. But if your fingers lose grip on these, at least they'll slip down and catch on the spiny part so you can still keep on turning. It rotates rather easily with minimal backplay, and the ratcheting is okay. It sounds a bit shrill and zippy, but I have heard and handled worse. One grumble is that the bezel insert is aluminium, so it will wear and age more noticeably. But for this brand at this price, it's kind of a given. The screw-down crown sits at the 8 o'clock position, and this makes it ideal for left-handers if they want a watch they can adjust easily while wearing it. As for right-handers, well, at least it keeps the crown out of the way for added protection. The crown guards themselves do almost nothing with regards to protecting it, but on the plus side it does make getting a grip a simple affair. And speaking of which, the crown doesn't use nailing like you'll find on most dive watches, but instead a circle with a diamond check pattern. Despite its unassuming appearance, it offers surprisingly good grip, making it easy to unscrew and adjust. Adjusting the hands is a simple task, as they spin quick enough but without feeling loose or wobbly, and the day-and-day complications snap into place nightly with a faint yet crisp clicking sound. The gripe I have is with screwing that crown back in. You really have to push and hold that crown in with a bit of firmness to let the threads line up properly during the first couple of turns. Otherwise it'll pop out and you'll have to try again. It's not overly difficult, but given this is an automatic watch and you might be doing this on a slightly regular basis, it can be rather irksome. The Fugu is powered by a Myoto 8204 movement that chugs away at 6 beats per second and offers a power reserve of around 42 hours. Much like the Bulova Surveyor I reviewed previously, the benefit is that you're getting a no-frills yet reliable automatic movement that's easy to service or replace when the time comes. And again, for the price, this movement is perfectly fine. Just some people might not like the occasional stutter from that seconds hand. The supplied oyster-style bracelet isn't terrible. It is defense, it wears comfortably enough, and it possesses some nice features, including a sign push-button clasp and solid end links. One minor letdown is the use of stamped metal on the clasp, and one major letdown is size adjustment. There's a paltry 2 micro adjustments on offer, and the bracelet appears to use push pins, but during my unfortunate resize process, I discovered it uses the pin and collar system. And let's just say that while I did resize the bracelet, I may or may not have damaged the pin and lost the collar in the process. And unless you have wrists that rival Godzilla's, I promise you, you will be resizing this bracelet. And unless you've got the tools, instructions, or experience with this setup, your safest option is to get a watchmaker or a jeweler to do it for you. But on a happy note, the spring bars come out with minimal effort, and with a 20mm lug grip, finding an alternative strap with this colorway is an easy task. And now we hit the negatives of the Fugu. The first one is more subjective, and that's the tool watch aesthetic. Despite the artistic and slightly fancy nature of that textured dial, the Fugu's appearance is as workhorse as it gets for a dive watch. With a bold and brushed case, aggressive teething or spines on the bezel edge, and no other elegance to speak of, the Fugu still looks and acts like a rugged watch for the most part, and wouldn't really gel in an office environment, let alone any occasion requiring a dress code. On a similar vein, the automatic text on the dial could have been omitted for a little more space, but given the already small font size, this is going into nitpicking territory. The bigger concern I have is with that day-date complication. The text size and cutout is a little too small, and while I kind of appreciate the black background and white text to help blend in with the dial, I feel this also detracts from its readability. If you're young and have regular vision, this might not be a problem, but if you're older or relying on glasses, then reading this complication can be a challenge and will require a careful look. And if you're trying to read it in direct light with the glare, you can almost forget about that. The price on the Fugu varies across retailers, but the cheapest I was able to find this for was somewhere around the $260 to $270 mark. And for that price, the Fugu is an easy recommendation to make. It isn't a perfect watch, and it'll struggle to fit in beyond casual wear, but you'll be hard-pressed to find a watch from a brand with over 100 years of horological history that boasts an automatic movement, sapphire crystal, ISO-rated diving performance, and a design that's anything but cookie-cutter or homage. And if the bracelet is a bother, do what I did, swap it for your favorite strap and go have fun with it. If you currently have previously owned the Citizen Promaster, especially this Fugu model, I'd like to hear your thoughts about it. But that's it for now, and thanks for watching, eh?